First of all, I'd like to include one of our past employees. Actually, he was my boss. He was a good boss. His name is Ramon Chris Martinez. Worked as a policeman, and then he worked as a purchasing agent for the city of Las Vegas. He also passed away this week. We keep the family in prayer.
Thank you. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So move, Mr. Mayor.
There's a motion to approve the agenda by Mr. Montoya. Second, please.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ulibarri. Roll call, please.
Counselor Casey?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Olivari?
Yes.
Have a motion by Counselor Montoya, second by Counselor Olivari. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is public input. We have no public input this evening. Moving on to the next item is approval of minutes for February 8th and February 15th, 2023.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the minutes for February 8th and February 15th. There were no errors found.
There's a motion to approve the minutes for February 8th and 15th by Ms. Casey. Second, please. Second by Mr. Romero. Roll call, please.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Olivari?
Yes.
Counselor Casey?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Have a motion by Counselor Casey, a second by Counselor Romero. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Moving on to our discussion for this evening with our joint work session with Lodgers Tax Board is Lodgers Tax Funding.
Thank you. One of the reasons why I wanted to have this meeting and call a special meeting is for a couple of reasons. One is that everyone in this room knows that I want to see the entire lodger's tax spent completely, 100%, zero balance. It's a revolving fund. We're doing very well with the lodger's tax. Thank God to the movie industry and to the people who are visiting. But I also made a commitment to the community at one point that we would be prudent on how we spend this money. And so we want to make sure that we start thinking as a team on how this money can be spent. And Leo prepared a couple of slides for us on how much each of the piece of the pie goes to and so forth. And I know that you talked earlier to Mr. Bhakta about the processes and everything for lodger's tax, and you said that that wouldn't be discussed tonight, but I think it's very important that we talk about everything lodger's tax. The process, the application, how often you meet, I know you're short 2 board members.
Technically 3.
3, so we'll get those appointed as soon as possible. The other issue is I really want to make sure that that the process becomes easier, and at one point I would really like to have a sort of some kind of a community meeting where people can contribute their ideas on the use of lodger's tax. Some of it can be used for infrastructure. Some of it can be used for marketing. A good portion of that money has to go to marketing, just destination marketing and so forth. So we all know what those parameters are, and Leo will put those slides up shortly. But the reason for the discussion tonight is to make sure that we are maximizing the use of lodger's tax and that we are prudent in how we keep track of the lodger's tax and so forth. So I talked to Leo earlier about an audit for lodgers, and being that it exceeds $250,000 in the year, that qualifies us for a specific audit for all lodgers. I don't know how they do it. I think they take a portion and then they audit each lodger. But we're going to conduct an audit to make sure that we are getting our fair share and that people are paying the lodger's tax accordingly. So, Leo, are you having technical difficulty? Who's on screen? I'm sorry.
That is our attorney from Mr. Van Vleck's law firm.
Okay, hi. I think you're muted.
Hopefully, can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you. Can you introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Corey Strife. I'm with New Mexico Local Government Law.
Okay.
I'm an attorney who works with Randall Van Black.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks for being here tonight. We appreciate you.
My pleasure.
Absolutely. Without further ado, you having some issues, Leo?
No, I was
Okay.
pulling up a different spreadsheet.
All right.
Good evening, everyone. So what we have here is a slide with the amounts of money that is broken down into a pie. The amount that's already been taken out of the $1,064,411.32 is the amount that is already tied to current projects and is encumbered in other projects that have not been completed. If you can put that one back up, Mr. Sequoia, sorry.
It's in the back.
Oh, okay. So, out of that pie, we broke it into 20% pieces, which equates for 100% of that. So the first piece obviously is marketing and advertising. Per statute, we have to spend at least 50% of that. So we've put 60% of that amount, which equates to 638,000 and some change. And the other 20% amounts of that pie would be for tourism infrastructure and the support for any tourism-based event. And that's the amounts that we're showing there. On the next slide that I have here is projects that we were already targeted to go after for this year. As everybody knows, we went out for RFP for marketing and rebranding of the city. That award was given to 7505. That is a rough number up there. We could go up, we could go down, depending on how everybody wants to go after that project. The other one is our New Mexico Truly program that we go after every year, FY24. We've already submitted our notice of interest, and you have to submit a range. So we said this year we want to contribute in lodger's tax between 80 and 100,000. Last year we contributed over 100,000. Being that we brought in this contractor, we wanted to kind of pull back a little bit from that and put some of that money towards the 7505 contract. The third one there is post-fire monies that New Mexico True said we have extra funding. We want to give you another option because you face catastrophe forest fire. We'll match you 1-to-1. So we said we'll put 15,000 towards that. They said that in the Sunny 505 contract, which consists of one of the 5 things that it consists of is revamping the Visit Las Vegas page. And they'll fund half of that Revisit Las Vegas page in the Sunny 505 contract. They projected it would cost roughly around $30,000. So we would put 15,000. New Mexico True would pay the other 15,000 for that contract. And obviously the last is the remaining balance off of the 600,000 that was on the first page. So just to kind of give some bullet points there to start the conversation.
So the 253 is what's going to be left over from the $1 million that we have, if those are approved,
If
according.
those are approved off of the 638,000, which is marketing and advertising.
Okay,
That's the balance that would be left.
all right. And I've made it very clear to Leo and to also Sunny 505 that one of their first tasks is to have a community meeting with all the stakeholders in town, including merchants, lodgers, everybody, so that they could start working on developing a plan. So everyone will have a word as to the marketing of Las Vegas. So it's not going to be done in a box. Everyone's going to be involved, and that was one of the first things that I said about Sunny 505 was that they needed to have several community meetings to get input regarding the marketing of our city. So Leo showed me that they're good to go.
7505, yes, they've already been awarded. We've sent them the award letter. We just got to sign a contract based on what we want to put towards the project. If everybody's okay with that amount, we can just move forward with the quote that was sent to us based on the scope of work. 7505 comes well, highly regarded from across the state. They do a lot of work for the state tourism department. I've asked them, well, we don't know where to start with the project like this, so I mean, we don't know what it's going to cost for the scope of work that we've asked them to do. So I asked them, what other partners do you work with right now? Santa Fe County, has a contract with them for $500,000. Their smallest partner is TRC for a project or a contract for $23,000. So depending on how everybody wants to go, the sky's the limit, or we can pull it back to whatever's amenable for everybody.
Have we approved a scope of work for 7505 yet?
Yes, that was
Okay.
part of the RFP process.
All right.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr.
Just
Romero.
for clarification, Leo, and maybe Cassandra could help me on this, is when we approved that the negotiations with the specific contract and figures would come back to us. Am I correct in that?
Yes.
So the numbers, so it hasn't been decided until we decide what?
No.
Okay.
It's been awarded, the RFP's been awarded, but the negotiation has not been awarded.
Okay, that's
Yes,
clear.
contract.
Will they be in our agenda for next week?
No, ma'am.
No.
I can try to see if they can present something, but I was gonna send out their quote based on the scope of work to everybody so that they have time, so you guys have time to digest
Okay.
their answers.
As far as the Lodgers Tax Board, we haven't seen the scope of work or the contract yet. I believe you guys have more information than the Lodgers Tax does on that, so. We're looking forward
There is
to
no
the-
contract yet?
Yeah.
There's only a scope of work that was included in our, that's all that's, at this point, has been awarded.
And I believe that's public record. It was in our minutes for December, first meeting in December, I think.
Yeah, I would have to review it. I'm not aware of it.
All right,
Didn't come up before Lodgers Tax.
okay.
And this year in that RFP, if I may, Mayor, we wanted to target bigger firms from outside of the box, from outside of New Mexico. So when we advertised, not only did we advertise locally, our website, we also advertised in the Austin newspaper, the LA Times, and bigger markets, so we can try to entice somebody to bring new ideas to the area.
Very well.
I mean, but I think the scope of work is things that we've been talking for a long period of time about, for what we want to do. Even things like having a website that's up to date, some of those things, somebody managing it,
That was on the scope of work.
that was on the scope of
Yep.
work. So one of the things that we've been talking about are have been long-standing issues that we've been talking about that would be, that we'd hope would be as part of the scope of work that could be taken care of.
Mr. Martinez?
City manager, ask this, I guess when I see a number like the 272, an agency like that, I guess in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking, well, what's the administrative piece? You know, because they've got to administer the contract and do the maintenance on the websites and stuff like that. Pretty much at the end of the day, what I'm looking for is what is going to be available after the 270 to do the actual advertising. So are they giving you guys a range of what their administrative charges might be?
Oh, I'd have to break down the whole scope so you could see it. I mean, I can send it out to everybody. That's fine.
And I don't think that 272 was the marketing, right? So, I think
There's a portion in there that is marketing, but
Yeah.
it's gonna be geared towards the market that we wanna go after. There's no pricing until we figure out.
no, but were you referring to a slide?
No, he said there was 270 on that other slide, but
Right.
I would imagine it's not going to them for just administration, there has to be some marketing tied into that.
So if I can briefly so one of them is destination writing. So authors come, or writers come to Las Vegas, they write stories and then they publicize it. One of the Las Vegas First Community foundations had come to the city and asked if we could go after that project, so we said that was included in this RFP. Rebranding of the city.
Web design, Visit Las Vegas.
Revamping the whole Visit City of Las Vegas page. The last one is management of the New Mexico True program. So New Mexico True usually has a third party that manages it for every other municipality. Here internally, we've been trying to manage it ourselves, but being that we don't have a full staffed economic development department, that's something that they do for other municipalities.
So, I mean, whatever the contract size was, I understand what you're saying now, or is going to be. Yes, I mean, from past experience, we want the majority of the budget to be actual placements. Now, year one to set up, you might have to spend a different ratio to set things up. There's gonna be more services, done to set up a website and stuff. So there's gonna be more on that, but we just wanna be careful on what's done. If it's a bunch of, services like maintaining a Twitter page or maintaining a social, those are that's a lot of money for professional services to maintain some of those things, so we've got to be wary of those kind of costs. We've been bitten before. So yes, year one might have some costs built in that it's not exactly ad buys, but we're hoping by year two that they're mainly advertising, pure ads that we're putting out there, that all of the infrastructure we've set up to get this machine rolling to market the town 365 a year, somebody is doing it. And that way money can get spent. As it comes in, it goes out. But we could use some of that. We have some saved up. We can use some of that to put a solid infrastructure down and then continue to spend it. We can definitely spend all this money very quickly, but we could either use it as a stimulus or use it as pure infrastructure for our tourism. There's two ways we can go about it. If we really set up a good program, we can continue to follow through and there won't be gaps in the system where if things change, the public doesn't have anywhere to go, or the town is no longer marketed because something fell through. Continuity is something that we need to discuss for everything that we do.
Absolutely, and I think that's one of the purposes of having 7505. One of their first things on their agenda is to host community meetings and to sort of give a timeline as to what their work entails and how we're going to proceed with this whole plan. And get input from the public as to how, what's going to be marketed, what, information do we need. I definitely would like to see on the Visit Las Vegas a whole section on nothing but merchants. Listing every single merchant, and so you're doing a profile for what they have in their stores. I know some of our shops are so unique, that there are things that you can't find anywhere else. And so I would really like to see a really robust business catalog type of, feature a merchant every so often, or however they're gonna do that. But I really want it based on, I really want that tourist page to contain a lot of information about Las Vegas, but also for businesses.
Yeah, and if you look at some of the things that 7505 has done with some of the other websites, they're following New Mexico True guidelines of using a lot of imagery. That could be true. So for the shopping, definitely. But the bigger picture is tourism. We need more events, more things to bring people in to shop. What we have is shops, but we don't have enough of the surrounding infrastructure to do it. I'd rather have an event and you bring, say it's a railroad event, historical event, and we bring it in. We need to have some type of attraction to bring those tourists in, and those tourists will come down and shop at our shops.
We have I met this weekend with the gentleman that does the New Mexico Racquetball Association. They do an international tournament. They're bringing over 500 people to Las Vegas at the end of August, and it's going to be a big draw to Las Vegas, and they market internationally. So I met with them and gave them my full support. But Ms. Angel, you had your hand up?
Yeah. Have you all looked at the city's website?
Yeah.
Recently? So you do have something in there already on businesses. So there is something there, so they will be taking some of that information and going through it and cleaning it up or whatever they need to do with it. My big concern is whatever marketing company that you hire, that you bring on board, is that the deliverables belong to the city of Las Vegas. Because the last big marketing campaign that there was, we didn't get any of it. The branding was gone, couldn't use any of that.
Included the website.
Yeah. I mean, it was a big loss to the taxpayers, and it was really sad
That's a good point. We'll make
So
sure
I
that,
would make sure that the attorney reviews that, that it is ours. We paid for it, it's ours. And we can use it when we're done with that marketing company. We can use all those materials as we choose to put them wherever we need to use them for.
it's a good point. Thank you. Mr. Martinez?
If I can, Mr. Manager, I guess what I recommend, as you go through this process, that you ask them to maybe give you what year two might look like. Because the 263, I think is what's the balance, could easily be used up on marketing, and the 270, somehow, most of it goes to them. But like Jack said, our chairman said, he said that, there's probably some startup costs going forward. I think this is not just a one-year contract with 7505. It's gonna be multi-year, especially if it becomes successful. And you might be able to see some of the results maybe by year two. Year one, it's still too fresh, I think. But I think you're gonna see a multi-year contract. But you may wanna see or ask, what does year two look like if we fulfill what, you all are working on? Because I think we need to make sure that we're diversifying the portfolio when it comes to marketing, because we shouldn't have all of the dollars to them and all the marketing dollars to them. There's other needs that the community needs, that we might wanna look at. So just a suggestion.
Mr. Maestas, did you pull something up there that you wanted to share?
Yes, this is 7505's proposal. So number one is obviously our scope of work that was in the RFP. And the second paragraph is their proposal based on our ask. Because it was in discussion, I thought I'd pull it up so everybody has a chance.
That's fine. What else does it,
Could you go over it? It says
can you just go over it real quick?
branding visitors guide.
Yeah, it's too small over there for people to see. Okay.
So number two is, first one is branding of the city of Las Vegas. And included in that, as Mayor mentioned, there will be community meetings where everybody can give their input as to where the city wants to go in the future. Along with graphic design and everything that goes with it. Number two is a visitor's guide. Depending on how large and how extravagant we want to go with that, those numbers can fluctuate depending on how many pages, the cardstock, the different sizes of that kind of thing, matte finish.
Leo, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
The visitor's guide, and I know this is a question that I brought up in the past, is the distribution. I mean, we don't want just the visitor's guide printed and then, we have to figure that. So if we can make sure that that's distribution included.
Well, the biggest portion that we need to look at is also having it in digital format so that we can put it on our website, we can send it out across the country.
And there's two ways to look at it. We always want print, but we know that the ratio is completely upside down. Everybody in this room has a phone sitting on their table. It doesn't mean we don't print anything, but across the country, across the state, we've shifted our outlays to more digital. So that doesn't mean we can't develop a visitor's guide. We can have a digital version of it, and we could use marketing monies to promote it or to push people to go. And it could be an interactive visitor's guide.
Or a web app.
Right. So we got to think a little bit more out of the box. That doesn't mean that it can't be part of something that's in print.
Sure.
It's just over the years, we haven't been able to evolve.
Yeah.
Here's our chance. We can make it into a digital. We can still have room for some more print, but the ratio needs to be greater towards who we are today.
A problem that I saw, Mayor, in the past is that we made a visitor's guide and had a year stamped to it, 2016. And then the following year, we had to make another one with stamped. And with the digital format, we just change it as we go. New businesses came to town, some things left, we change it as we go, and it just keeps running. I think that was a question.
I'd like to recognize Mr. Burskins.
Yeah, with regard to the digital marketing, the web or Facebook or Twitter, whatever format that is, it's still kind of push in that the user is going to have to make the effort to access this site and explore it. I'll share just a little bit of information with the mobile app that I developed for historical. There's over 1,000 people that have used that and spent on average about 20 minutes on that app. The connection is when you have something tangible that a visitor that we're trying to attract can engage in, then you're making a more solid connection to that tourist and the reason why they should come. The one thing that's missing in a lot of digital marketing programs is the focus on engagement that gives somebody a reason to be going into there. And that takes some creativity compared to putting out a website, developing a branding message. You have to think about it from the consumer standpoint and give me a reason to go there.
An experience
Yes.
on the web.
The experiential aspect
Yeah.
of digital marketing is more important today than it's ever been.
Mhm.
The content is really important in the development of that content. And that's tough for Georgina was mentioning on who owns that content afterwards, doing it perpetually. The technology is there. Look, the apps are out there. You can get the licensing for it. Hopefully, the city owns it, so we don't lose control over it. So that portion of the technology is there, but it's the content that we need to put on there and develop, and then we could continue to use that going forward. Whichever way it is, whether one portion of it is visitor's guide or another portion of it is interactive app as you're walking along, somebody needs to develop that content for it, and it needs to be owned by the city going forward.
Mr. Maestas, go ahead.
So next is the story writing that we mentioned. Followed by the new website design for Las Vegas, Visit Las Vegas. Kind of talking about what Mr. Burskins was mentioning with the New Mexico True program. A lot of what they do is the ads are targeted towards people that are searching on TripAdvisor, even on Netflix. It comes on across as a commercial on Netflix. So it's not that you have to actually search for Las Vegas. It actually comes to you, and that's why New Mexico True program is a proven brand. But we'll look at targeting, market targeting when we're looking at this with this package.
Mr. Maestas, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Angel, go ahead.
The analytics we have, the city has, you guys have access to it, correct?
From New Mexico True.
Well, even from your website, you
Yes.
have an analytical, you have access to who's looking at it, what are they looking at? So you get a monthly review as to what are the hot ones, because that is what you're gonna want to tell your new marketing people, look, here's our analytics, this is telling us over a year, people are looking at this and they're asking about these particular sites. So that we're not having to start from ground zero.
I
We
think-
already have a number of sites.
One of the problems is the quality of our webpage right now. And poor analytics because of the design of the webpage. It needs to be completely revamped.
But you can take some of that data.
Yeah, of course we
Don't
can.
throw that data
No,
away.
But
That's my point.
Yeah.
Don't throw it away. It can be used, you can decipher it and take what you need from it. That's what I'm saying. We don't have to start from ground zero on that.
Doctor?
So I mean, the history of what happened, the website was originally, a few years ago, we went through another marketing company, they developed the website. When they terminated the contract, for that said company, we lost all the assets for the website, so then I believe the city, employee developed a website for us, on the fly, and that's what you see today. And then the tracking of, whichever that was also done with that city employee. But if you don't have continuity in there, or if the data is going nowhere or of no use, then that becomes problematic.
And
So-
that will be covered in this whole thing.
Right.
Is,
so
is,
we-
you know, who's gonna look at it, who's watching the analytics, what are they popping on? What should we, you know, what information do people are hungry for Las Vegas? You know, what is it they're searching for?
Well, and that's why we always liked recommending New Mexico True, because at a state level, they had the same concerns. And so for a good portion of what is part of the packages is trackability. And I mean, that's what I like, is you can choose within those packages things that are more trackable, and they point them out. There's other things where you may be placing ads, but you may not have a clear picture of whether it actually benefited Las Vegas. But then there's other things that are providing outstanding analytics on what did we get for our dollars. But it's key. So same thing for 505 across the board. We want to be doing the same things, but we also want them to be reporting us with the same metrics. Yes, you did this, but what did this result in? And if it's a lot of working with New Mexico True and their thing, then we can have more confidence that those numbers are there. If not, as part of our deliverables, there should be adequate reports on metrics for what they're doing.
So, you know, not to spend too much time on web design, because all that's coming soon, and we need to hear from everybody regarding every aspect of marketing. The web, what do we want to market, everything.
All of the above.
Everything, so, I want them to engage with the community, I want them to be, you know, go to all the different meetings, service organizations, all the different meetings, listen to people to see what they can do to develop a good marketing program.
Well, there's the marketing program, and we're taking on a lot with the rebranding. Look, when the last time we've taken on rebranding, it was a two-step process. Again, if continuity is key, we spend a lot of money and then we don't follow through on the projects. This is not our first go around for rebranding. I remember it vividly, and they had, for the last branding company we had, they had bulletin points of how this could go well. Or this could go bad.
So with that, I can tell you that I really want to, and I've heard your ideas clearly. I really wanted this meeting to concentrate on how, that's a good start on where that money's allocated and so forth, and more or so budgeted. But I want to make sure that when we're looking at the process of Lodgers tax funding, that the application is fluid, that it goes through the proper, and I know it does, your approval and everything. I just want to talk about the dollar amounts. Like, I understand that there's a policy or something that our council said you could only apply for $5,000 for event.
So for event marketing, that's for marketing individual things. We had put caps on those, and then there's
And who
events.
did?
Lodgers Tax Board with the recommendation of Lodgers Tax Board recommending to council and council approved. With the caveat of some of the big events that council wanted larger amounts approved for.
Yeah, and so there's still an opportunity to get more funding besides 5,000.
Well, if that event, we make recommendations for that event, if we think it needed money, we would recommend that it would be forwarded to council, and council give additional funding, which has happened in the past.
I just wonder how efficient that $5,000 thing is, and if they're not gonna come back and say we need X amount more.
Right.
When
And
we
so-
could maybe, that's my concern about how much money people can ask for, because putting on an event will eat up every bit of $5,000.
Right, but we gotta remember that it's not to execute the
No,
event.
I understand.
It's to market the
Yeah.
event, and that's what Lodgers tax is for. Now, all the things on that application aren't new things if you look at other applications. So, and a lot of those questions come out of the best practices handbook for hospitality. And really, they're just about accountability. They're just asking you basically what your event is about and trying to standardize it, and whether, and having some metrics of whether your event went well or not. We have to have something to say, hey, we spent this much money. What was the results of it?
Yeah, well,
And
yeah.
how would we reward it? Because we have to be so even. How would we reward one event over the other? If we took no metrics at all, how would we decide?
No,
It
I
would just be-
understand. That's the work of that's what
Well,
your
we're
committee
also
should
not
be doing.
kings, so we have to have some system and some metric that, or otherwise it's just not gonna be, well, you're getting money, this is money.
Well, that's exactly what I want to avoid the appearance of.
Right.
Why did they get that 30,000 and
This,
I
and
didn't
so-
get 10,000?
Right.
I want the process to be fair for anyone who
So-
applies for lodger's tax.
So if you go back in history over the minutes, you can go over it. We've had an event, and when those caps came into place is when one event from one year to the next, maybe it was 2,500 the next year, but then a prior year, the next year it jumped to 10, and then it went to 20, and then into 25. But we didn't see the visitor count go up. We didn't see the metrics that were there. So for us, as a recommendation board, we found that hard to recommend to council all of a sudden, that why is this event tripled its budget?
But it's not fair if we're not doing our work. So if they have a
Exactly,
cost.
so that's what the applications.
Right, and so
to do
on
our
that
homework.
application, it should explain, how many people do you expect to bring heads and beds, how many rooms? How are we tracking that?
So some of the questions, and I'm surprised in the pushback for an application process, because I don't think ours is the most complex.
No, I'm not saying it is. I just
for
wanted to be
example, I mean,
easy.
Look, we, from January to until now, for years, we've been trying to just establish that, hey, this is a deadline. Let's make it. So, but we've always broken those deadlines and taken more applications. So this go around, starting from January, we said, hey, we'll have a deadline of March 10th for our marketing assistant. All that needs to happen is filling out the application.
And what period is that?
And try putting in for us.
So if I'm having an event in October, I need to apply now in March?
Before March.
Well,
Only do it twice.
we wanted to do it
there's
twice, yeah, we wanted to do it twice a year, but look, if we start marketing the event, the week, the days, even the month before the event, how effective is our marketing? So some of when we were having our discussions, that we need to do this early enough so that the guys holding the event can market for a good solid amount of time.
Yeah, it makes sense.
We've definitely struggled on putting on the dates and the continuity of. We rely on staff and how it's done for it. I admire what the city staff is trying to do under the circumstances of what's been happening and the changes that happen. But look, the application is straightforward. What it's asking for as far as trying to say, hey, how did your event do? Do you have some accounting? I think anybody would reasonably ask those questions.
No, absolutely. I'm not, all I'm here for is to get a good grip on the process, that it's fair, and that the application is what we need, and that we get the information back that we're looking for. How do we know how many beds were taken? Who's calling the hotels? How do we know that money was well spent?
Mr. Mayor, if I can add to that,
Yeah.
is also, I know there's been the confusion that even on these applications to where, well, why should we be counting? Well, at the end of the day, you're requesting this money and you're gonna say that there's 300 people, well, you're gonna count them. I mean, so that's been one of the issues that I've had, is that, okay, so now we have to, on top of your event, then we have to have a city employee go and count and make sure that that's what you're doing. So, I mean, in that, it shouldn't be the responsibility of the city to make sure that it is. I mean, we're expecting, let's see, an event that happens for them to come back and say, okay, and I think this is what we should do, is actually have a presentation to the lodgers, not to the council, but to the lodgers to the lodgers board, and say, hey, this is the presentation, this is what we brought in, this is how many people, and kind of have that type of, info to ensure that at the end of the day, what we invested in it, and you know, going back into history, there was $20,000 spent on an event and maybe 5,000 spent on marketing, actual marketing, and given to stuff that they shouldn't have been spending it on. And those are the issues that I know in my coming onto council and trying to address some of the issues that we've had in the past, is to make sure that that money is being spent the way it should be, and not just kind of some, you know, get us into some situations that we don't want to be in as
So
as
the
a,
analysis portion is missing.
there's
There should be
there's
like
that
a
part.
post-contract paper. Nancy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The missing link here is the lodgers. When I sat on the lodgers tax board, the groups do come back and they present their receipts that they've done the advertising. That is not the issue. The issue has always been, how does the organization putting on the event get the cooperation of the lodgers to let them know who came for that event? There was always pushback from the lodgers, my front desk can't do this, they don't have the time, blah, blah, blah. When I travel across the country, every hotel I check into, the first question they say is, what brings you to fill in the blank? If we can't get the lodgers of Las Vegas to cooperate with the Lodgers Tax Board and the people putting the events on, you're always going to have this void.
Amen.
And I agree, but I also disagree that, that there's pushback from my hotels being part of the chair. It's just consistency if you're approaching us with it, but there needs to be some amount of trackability that can happen.
Yes, but
and with
if the lodgers will ask the question, the event coordinator will follow up and call the lodgers. If my staff at the front desk can ask people, what brings you to Las Vegas, and find out, surely the lodgers can do the same.
I see no issue with that.
Well, then you talk to the rest of the lodgers crew tech, because this has been going on for decades.
Okay. There are other ways to do it as well, and so I could certainly talk to all of them if they're approaching it, but there's other ways that we can do it with tracking.
There's also random sampling to where you could use QR codes at the event, randomly, you know, ask individuals, you know, I mean, do drawings. I know I did it, but of course it costs money to do all these things. I did it last minute for the Balloon Fiesta. You do a QR code, there's questions they ask, you know, maybe the event does like a drawing to where they get those QR codes and you do it. I mean, let's say 400 people attended the event, maybe you only had 100, but, you know, answer that question. You could kind of get a random sampling based off of those numbers. And I think, I mean, there's different things that it shouldn't just be dependent on.
If you had click-through on the website for that said event, and they booked a room, there's so many cities out there where it's direct. You can book a hotel room directly off of the visitor site. And those give you numbers immediately. We could say those directly related to lodgers tax.
And that's kind of what I was hoping on that visit page is, like if you go to
so many
vegas.com
visit
for
pages, it's
Vegas,
just right on there.
you could book your
got the
hotel there.
Book it now. You don't even have to go to another engine, because people pay for this type of data. But if we direct all of our traffic to one sector and they book their hotel right off of there, if there was an event that was held and they click through there, we have that information in our hands. That booking engine is telling us this person came from here and they booked a hotel room in Las Vegas. Those are numbers for those dates. You could tie a date to your event and how many hotel rooms. So those are the kind of things that we can provide on the one end. I understand the struggle by the thing, but look, in the application, we're arguing for arguments, but the application, there's points for each section you fill out. It's not end all be all for can you track this. It's one page out of the application.
Well, but in order for us to be able to know if it brought heads and beds,
We need some type of information. We're not even asking to that level. But if to provide no information for some application, well, how is that something? It's part of that application, which is, I think, it's fair. It's not the end all be all. We're still giving money, right, to even entities that they can't quite prove what's happening. But maybe we build on that. But we're still going to be providing that feedback, saying, you know what, can you track it a little bit more? Can we do these? We always have that conversation.
do you have your application process on any kind of spreadsheet that would give you a total of, you know, like when people write 400 people will come to this event, Is there any kind of analytics done on your process at all?
On our process?
Yeah.
No, for Lodgers Tax Board, I don't have the staff to do that, so, when we talk about we, let's go with we. This application was not developed, we brought it from within the city, some, staff member within the city developed that page, a marketing official, in the past from that city developed that application.
Well, maybe it's time to look at it, and maybe it's time to
We can
better it.
certainly, review and look at it, and so let's see what questions, I mean, I wish, that's why I wanted to bring up, because if this is the discussion we're gonna have, I wanted the application in front of us.
Well, I think we're all familiar with the application.
Yeah,
It's
so,
just, I don't think it's the be at all, the whole thing.
Right.
I think there's room for improvement on everyone's behalf.
so which questions would we like, because we've always even said that during large specs, if there's issues with that application, I think what the wrong way for that, believe it or not, in the vacuum of different administrations, that application didn't even exist. People were just approaching us
I know.
for monies. That application had disappeared. So we wanted to be responsible, like, look, I know we have this application somewhere, let's bring this back so we have accountability. And when I read it, it seemed logical, it was a scoring system, but we actually needed to develop the time and the deadlines to actually really be able to review the process and score it properly in time. Not continuously be getting it and then getting it the day before a Lodgers tax meeting and handing out money. That's not accountability. So if we look at the individual questions on the applications, if there's an issue on or we'd like to change, we certainly, let's take that feedback and let's make the adjustments.
Well, I think it warrants better analytics, in my opinion.
Okay.
That's the portion we're not capturing. Did it indeed bring 400 people to
Well,
hotels?
it would make it tougher on the person applying. Again, the spirit of those questions, I thought they weren't meant to deny you, but it was part of the points.
Well, it might not
of-
be the part of the applicant responsible for that data. It might be somewhere else. It might be, some way of accounting or something. It might not be the applicant's responsibility.
Then we
Well, then
definitely,
it's up to the event coordinator to come back and report to us, to give us that report.
That's your business. That's how you want to do it. If that's perfect, that's a
But
good
that's what
idea.
we've been asking them to do. Not all of them do come back. We
Well-
cannot order them to come back and give us a final report.
Well, then, when they apply for money next year, you gotta reconsider that. Michael?
Yes, I think there's no reason for us to reinvent the wheel. Whenever we do something in Main Street, we're usually copying other communities. We all learn from each other, we meet regularly. So why can't we look at what's happening with lodgers tax in other places, so we can look at their applications? So if we steal their application, or if we ask them if we can borrow it, but can't we look at some of this just to, or maybe you've already done it. But I think it would be really interesting to know what other towns are doing, so we don't have to constantly, because we've been through part of this discussion before, and it would be great just to see what they're doing and how they solve these problems.
I agree. That's a good idea.
Mr. Mayor, and we did on that, I mean, and that's one of the reasons why the
application
lodgers
changed.
tax on the 2 times a year, we checked with Santa Fe, I don't know if, I think you might have been on that
It
meeting.
was, yeah.
Where they gave, twice a year, and then we do that, and then all of a sudden, there's criticism as to why only twice a year, you know what I mean? So we're doing that, I don't
Well,
know.
we keep looking, I mean, it would be great if we looked at Santa Fe, but we should look at some towns our size.
Like Raton.
Taos, with how they use their lodgers tax. Yeah. Cindy?
As far as the analytics go, the city has it. The city finance director can say, oh, it's the 3rd week of July and gross receipts have gone up by X. Oh, there was an event that week. There's your number, there's the facts. You can go to lodgers tax receipts and say, how much did we receive from lodgers tax in August? Will it really jump this month? Why? You've got the numbers. Your city finance director does.
Well, it would be a rough estimate, looking at that.
So is the event coordinators a rough estimate?
Yeah, when they say so many people will
Even
attend.
the city, you can't say there were 10,821 people at Fiestas. How do you figure that out?
but we do know that look, there's 2 events that basically have turned into a sellout situation for the town where there's not enough rooms. That's Fiestas and that's Biker Rally. Those are, we know for sure the demand is created by those two events. All of the other events, and again, I mean, we're digressing into the application process, but the overall idea is to build out events that could get bigger and bigger. And how do we figure out whether they're bigger and bigger? Right now, those numbers are too small. I do ask, our staff does ask. The first thing they ask is what brings you here. The second thing they ask is where would you like to eat? Okay, they ask. So the amount of production that we have outside of those two events is very small. We haven't touched the surface, not for our freeway properties, right? Plaza Hotel, Caseta, they're getting much, but there's not much more out of that. The impact that's been happening for those other events are in the hundreds versus the type of numbers that you're looking at to fill the town. So we've always kind of mixed it up in the past. We had presentations, well, look, lodger's tax went up, but then we didn't do the proper analysis. We're like, look, there was a movie crew in here for about a month at the same time as your event. But we were trying to conflate those two, and they were also, when you're presenting it to us, they were also saying, look, it went up by this amount. We knew full well that wasn't the full monies, but the reality was, well, we expect that kind of money. That came from that event.
And does your group do that in your meetings? Do you analyze?
I definitely have to look at it. If that's part of their saying, that's what the tough thing to do was. Every time when things were brought up in the past and we wanted for huge amount increases of money, they were pointing towards these increases, but we couldn't connect it to the actual event. Now, if we go down to the actual day, if the city could provide that kind of information, that would be great. What I'm telling you from my experiences with my hotels on outside of here, not downtown, the type of impact from the other events is very small. Okay, can we grow that? Absolutely, but we haven't touched the surface of it. We have if we for 505 with whatever we do, we can create. It's not for a lodger's tax board that meets every quarter. For it, that's not going to be a high level of analysis for it. But if we get the 505 or any other entity to start doing some of the analysis, then maybe we have the numbers. Maybe that provides assistance to the guys that are applying. But the marketing that they're doing for their events shouldn't be the filler for the vacuum of no marketing. That's where we're at now, right? That if we had an entity continuously marketing for the overall picture, then that would be the supplementary things for the events.
I got it.
They could help even identify, look, this event is a great event. We could build around this. Let's continue to market it. Okay? That being said about no funding or vacuum, there are some things that we were able to get through, even that while we're working through all of our other problems. So New Mexico True kept going. The project with the Balloon Fiesta kept going. Those are things that we can continue growing. And again, like for Councilor Romero said, on the next run, we could have better counting of metrics of who actually visited our booth. How do we get the growth? How do we get the numbers?
QR codes.
And the second part to the Balloon Fiesta was to get our name out there. The first part. The second part is I want to bring people to town from that event, and I want
the biggest event in our state.
Even Indian market and Hispanic market and all those big events in Santa Fe. There's no reason why we can't bring busloads of people here, let them loose on our streets and give them a guide and put them on a bus and take them back home in the evening.
And those are the type of things that we could talk about, and I thought we'd be talking about today. We have some ideas on how to do it, how to dovetail, how to use that many people during Balloon Fiesta in October, when we have hotel rooms, but Albuquerque and Santa Fe doesn't. We could be, if we had something to push that, that's a lot of shoppers that have come from all around the world, if we figure out a way to bring them here during that.
So let's take our meeting to the idea portion of this. The idea of spending the additional money or lodger's tax period.
I'll start, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
First of all, that overtime and support for tourism from solid waste, public works, public safety, $212,000. Has that already been committed, or is that what we're asking for, or is that what's just available?
That's the amount that we can use towards that
Oh,
project.
okay. And what's our figure? We've asked you to give us a figure on that a while back. What are we submitting on that right there?
So last year, we put into the budget 150,000. That's
Okay,
what we submitted into the budget. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what's been used from that.
okay. And then the other question that I had is on tourism infrastructure, 20%, 212,000. That's what's available right now for the city to spend, or lodge tax, or within our community. And I don't know how everybody feels, but in part of the planning, I would request that, aside from, the Boom Fiesta and the 4th of July and all those events that bring tourists to our community, and I would request that, we set aside, I'm gonna say like $80,000 to be able to, over at the Arts Council, to be able to build some city bathrooms. I mean, we're talking about advertising Las Vegas, about bringing people, and a lot of times our business community is, have signs on their business saying only their own patrons that use that business can use the bathrooms there. I think that, I've seen other communities where downtown areas have public bathrooms. And I would think that behind the Art Council, that building belongs to the city of Las Vegas. And I'm saying that I think that we could make an addition in the backside to where we could have public bathrooms and the city maintain them. We could ask the custodian from the police department to take care of the police department, take care of the trash at the park, and also take care of the trash probably in the Gainas River, as well as those bathrooms. If not, we hire somebody. But I think that it would have hours, it would have lighting, and it would have doors locked at certain time, so incidents wouldn't happen. I think that would be a good location for it, and I think I would suggest that we'd save some money on the side for that. The other thing is, I think that the idea of an archway into Las Vegas would be a good thing on 104, as well as maybe on 518. We have a lot of people that come in from different areas and that visit Taos and come in from Colorado, that I think that something like that would be great to have. I've seen it in other cities where, and when you advertise Las Vegas, you advertise those also. And it makes it a little bit more welcoming, I think. And I'll rest with that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thanks.
One of the ideas I had was, if we really, really talk about bringing tourists to Las Vegas, it would be through tournaments, softball, baseball, Little League, that bring in tons of people. I would venture to say, that investment in Rodriguez Park, $100,000 for Rodriguez Park or whatever it is.
And look, we've done, look, when we've had baseball here, we've seen that impact in the past. We have families that have come in and stayed. I know I've seen it at the hotels when we've had it. I think there was a loss when we did it, but they're just not staying, they're eating. You can, I think that's something that I can easily measure at the hotel if we were asking, what we are asked, but we did have that impact. My hope is that it started all in July, because we have so many things out. Again, our biggest event, 2 events of the year is in July.
Yeah, and we're on their schedule.
Right, right. So the hope is we can
That's-
capture some of the things around it. But look, that's certainly, when we've done that, so that even for the bathrooms, it's in the main corridor for tourism. That's a tourism project. We definitely need more, look, we're saying we definitely need more tourism projects. When those type of things have come along for the Riverwalk, for trash cans, we've approved it. As long as we could connect it to tourism infrastructure, then it can be fair game.
I'd also like to invest more in public art and public places.
Mr. Mayor.
However, let me get
Fire
a couple
station
of
was the one
people.
example, yeah.
Cindy?
I'd like to address the bathroom issue, Counselor. The state provided the city of Las Vegas and Main Street money for the E. Romero Hose building. The first grant was $70,000. That paid for a public restroom, and that's in the grant conditions. City of Las Vegas, we're gonna give you money if you put in a public restroom in the E. Romero Hose building. There's a beautiful bathroom there, but no one knows it. So yes, we do have a public bathroom in Old Town.
One other thing about public bathrooms, we worked on a whole idea of raising money for it, and USDA said that since we're considered a perpetual poverty community, that we can apply for $250,000 up for the bathroom. We can build a bathroom. And that, it got shut down at one point, but USDA would give us the money to do the bathroom, and we don't have to lose the art gallery or the town art gallery to build a bathroom.
If you want to do it right, move the police department, put a substation there, put a parking garage with public restrooms and kiosks about the history of Las Vegas.
Good
That's
idea.
the way to do it.
Meredith, did you have a question?
A comment?
No? Mr. Ulibarri?
What I
Good
see in
job, Roberta.
other municipalities or other cities that RV parks, people come in here and they're looking for RV parks, they're looking for a place to park their RVs, Now that we're working at Rodriguez Complex, hopefully we can finish that complex there and put some RV parking out there. Because that would get a lot of tourist people in here. That's one of the things that I kind of be looking at that we don't have, because, every time you have the 4th of July fiestas, anything that we have, that I was asking for, hey, where can we go park? Usually they go park at Story Lake, but if we had something inside the city limits.
Rodriguez Field?
Rodriguez Field, yes.
There's a place for a RV park at Rodriguez Field.
I mean, look, you're right, the demand's there, and that comes at the community development area of maybe enticing someone to build that RV park. But maybe we could provide examples again of, hey, this is a piece of land that somebody that develops RV parks can develop. It's definitely of a
Well,
need.
it's designed in the Rodriguez Park already.
Mr. Mayor. The other thing on bathrooms, even last year we had the Little League Championships out here, and they're coming back this year. And I noticed over even at Keys Park that we didn't have bathrooms. We had to get portables. And, I think that the era of portables, I think to me, it's something that is something for when you have a concert out there in the boonies. But when you're in here in the community, whether it's at the rec center or at the baseball park or, in a public event like that, or at the Plaza Park, or Carnegie, I think we ought to have, nice decent bathrooms for people to really use. A lot of people come with their kids, and it's disgusting actually. Not to throw down the people that run those businesses, but I think we're a lot better than that, and I think we should.
Seems like Nancy
focus
has a
on
lot to
spending
say.
money
I don't
there.
know. Nancy, can you tell us,
The legislative priorities, we have till the 16th to get them in. The legislature would give us money for bathrooms.
the deadline's over.
I just looked at the list of what was funded last year, what people were asked for, and, there were some places that asked for that. So it's like, we could ask for that.
So does the Logistex.
There's definitely, if we can, for definitely for the, if we could keep it tourism focused, that's fair use. When we do, I mean, look, we definitely need bathrooms, but then we started getting into the edge of whether those are promoting tourism. The ballparks are easier because these teams are coming out, and we could probably justify the levels of income for if this is the amounts, and we're filling the town with them, we can maybe justify those investments. But we got to look at it across the board. If we have monies out there that we can go get and we can go solicit for the public with public money, that's good. I mean, lodger's tax, we don't want to lose track of. It's for the promotion of, and that we need to come up with good, solid tourist infrastructure that would bring it in continually year after year. Okay. Look, when we looked at the skating rink over the winter, look, it was a risk, right? But the idea was, look, we need to build something for our winter. We needed to build an activity, and there was a shot, if we can market it and do it right, that we could turn it into a regional attraction. We brought people from out of town to come in. So not only are they skating, they're eating, they're going down to the shopping, but it needed to be developed in that way. So we took a chance on that. Those are things that we can provide as an attraction where it drags tourists from out of town. That's lodger's tax.
Ideas? Georgina?
I really like the idea, and I think we should really look at it seriously, is going after the grants with the city and the state, or whatever federal it is, but combining those monies, not just because we've got $500,000 or whatever it is in lodger's tax. Go and get this other infrastructure money.
Oh,
It's there.
We're applying for
And the idea of moving the police department and making it a substation is a beautiful idea, because you need parking, and that's a good parking space.
Not all of it belongs to us.
I realize that, but
We
it
are.
is additional parking. And the bathrooms are right there, you can make them handicap accessible, that way you're not kicking out the Arts Council, because where are you gonna put them? You're gonna have to find something for them to go, someplace for them, and they're a vital asset for the community.
There's plenty of
But
room
you
in
can
the
get a
back.
substation there, and you could put those public bathrooms as centrally located.
And we
It's
have
right
been, actively pursuing the purchase of that lot that used to belong to Dalton that's adjacent to the police department. We've been actively pursuing that purchase for a long time. Now it's in legal limbo, if you would.
What about eminent domain? Take it.
The Metropolitan Redevelopment Act, which has been approved by the city, helps to engage eminent domain because of that act.
And what act was that again?
The Metropolitan Redevelopment Area, MRA, it's incorporated in the city's comprehensive plan.
Okay.
And it is a tool that gets around, what's it called? Not domain, I'm sorry, I can't.
It's just a plan that was developed by.
No, it's an area district
Yeah.
that has rules and tools for economic development.
But it's a plan, it's not, I mean, there's not.
No, it's an act that has been incorporated into the city's comprehensive plan by city council.
The Metropolitan Redevelopment Act.
Metropolitan
it's not.
Redevelopment Act.
Redevelopment Act. Okay, that's a good idea.
It's probably in one of the many master plans that's on the shelves.
I've got it, it's not on it used to be on the city's website, but it's not, but it was incorporated into the city's comprehensive plan, so it is an act, legally enacted by the city. And Councilor Romero disagrees with me, but
No, it's a plan, because that's the same plan that does have closing down.
it's an MRA.
closing down National Avenue and doing that. And I mean, it's just a plan that was developed by a group of citizens, you know, that came together and came up with this
That's
idea.
a master plan, that's different.
There are recommendations within the MRA.
No, I know what it is. I
And
mean,
some
I
of
know.
them haven't been, you know, because it's a discussion item, but it is an act.
That's a very good idea.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr.
A
Maduro.
little bit of clarification on the substation. We're already looking at maybe obtaining the old Legion School for the police department and a substation there. Substation would be too close down on that area in downtown. But it could also probably be used, not all the building, but part of the building could probably be used for training also and other stuff. But we're not looking at getting the whole building. That wouldn't be efficient for us, so, but, thank you.
You did say there's a bathroom, a public bathroom at the firehouse?
Yes.
Is there signage out there that says
No.
public bathroom?
No.
The
Then
firehouse
who
wasn't.
knows? Nobody knows about it.
Exactly, I agree, Georgie.
Well, when they put that in there, why didn't they have signage on there?
Well,
Because
it's
the
not
pandemic
because of,
happened and the fire happened and.
Yeah, but I mean, you have fire exits and that didn't stop
They didn't
because
have
of
funds.
pandemic.
I agree.
They ran out of
It
funds.
just, how
well,
did that
now,
happen?
well, now that they have somebody working at that the fire museum, it's quite possible to erect the whole signs for public bathrooms, because they are open on Saturday and Sunday.
Because that would
There's only one
definitely
restroom
help
in the
the businesses, you know, putting up signs, no public bathrooms, no public bathrooms, no public bathrooms, you know. That's,
Yeah, but you have 10,000 people at the park.
And one restaurant.
One bathroom's gonna make the big difference?
but I'm not talking
Seriously?
about, I'm not talking about the
No.
park right now, I'm talking about.
Well, I'm talking
before the
about
I
bathrooms
understand
for the
that, I
public.
understand that, but right now,
Yeah.
I wasn't even aware of it, and I live just blocks away from this place.
Yeah, well, I think it's
You
time
know.
to build some more bathrooms.
Well, of course, yes, but there should,
Mr.
the public
Martinez?
wasn't aware of it.
Mr. Mayor, and both of us are new to the Lodgers Tax Board, so we have to depend on, you know, Crew Tech and Regina and Nancy for all the years they put into working on all these issues in the past. I did have an opportunity to work in the past with the chamber, and it was a few years ago, so times have changed. And, you know, I go back and I look at some of the stuff that Elmer was able to do when he was here. He was able to keep his thumb on a lot of stuff. And kept us all in order, I guess. In some cases, we get all excited, but then he just put his thumb down and quietly put us all in our place, I guess, at the end of the day. But I do want to bring up one thing in regards to infrastructure, and I brought it up at one of the Lodgers Tax meetings. You know, I see the fiestas, you know, it's not just the celebration that we've had for 133 years, it's the community's somewhat indirect family reunion. You know, your dad, Mr. Mayor, mine, they show up there with their lawn chair and they're there for the whole event. And I would hope that we could start putting some money aside, either through Lodgers Tax General Fund or ask for state appropriation to make the facilities at the park a little more permanent. You know, I mean, we're bringing in a portable stage now. And I guess we can move it around and try to figure out where the best place to put it. You know, at some point we need to, you know, make the investment, you know, go to Las Cruces and see what they did with their downtown. They put an event center in the facility there in the middle of the town. Other towns are doing the same. We're fortunate that we have a huge plaza compared to other plazas. In fact, I think you can put all the other plazas that there are in New Mexico in that plaza, because they're that small. Ours is big. We have the trees that we have as cover for the sun when it's hotter than heck in July, you know. So I would think that we should start looking at some more permanency on some of the facilities there. You know, I don't know where, don't leave it up to me, I'd say get an engineer, get somebody to put together a master plan of how to redesign that, you know, a place for the bands to perform. But make it a multifunctional facility where you can use it year-round for other events, not just the fiestas, there's other things that can be done. And then with a master plan, also put together a plan for bathrooms, you know, it's something that is needed, you know. What do we have to show 50 years from now if we don't take care of it now? What do we have to show 20 years from now if we don't take care of it now? Now, I think you have to be careful, let's not get too crazy about trying to get too many dollars from Lodgers Tax to do a lot of this infrastructure. we support the events by marketing them so that we can get people here. Let's look for other ways to look for more permanent facilities there at the plaza and get as much input as possible, because it's not just the fiestas that brings people to this town. There's things that are happening literally every single day. So I'd like to see us put together a plan for just that area to see how we can put some permanency into some long-term thinking in that facility, in that area, including the parking. Good idea.
Mr. Ulibarri?
You know what, I've seen, but I was concentrating like on Rodriguez Park because I've seen other cities or municipalities that they have outside concerts. I mean, and that's a beautiful place. I mean, Rodriguez is a beautiful place to do outside concerts to get people in here, you know. Or just access, there's gonna be a lot of people in here, and, you know, I always kind of seen that all my life, but, you know, it's taken so many years to come to what we're talking about. And seeing that we're working at Rodriguez, and Rodriguez Park's got a lot of potential, you know, so I really look at that in almost every time I talk about it, you know, see what we can make out of it, how big we can do, what we can, you know, just make it work, you know, but it takes a lot of time, and it just takes a lot of engineering, whatever it's gotta do, you know, so.
Mr. Mayor, about 10 years, maybe 8 or 10 years ago, I don't remember, there was a plan for the Safeway parking lot. And it just sizzled, but it was exactly that, an event space. There was talk about moving how do you say, farmer's market.
Farmer's
there
market, a skateboard park,
and putting,
public restrooms.
Amphitheater?
seating, an outdoor theater with, you know, like a, in Greece or Italy, like a
stage.
stadium. And so, I mean, we don't lack ideas. We know where to get the money, but there's never any follow-through. I mean, isn't everybody in this room tired of talking about all this stuff? Let's just do something.
Yeah, look, in the past, especially for lodgers tax, money may have been the problem, we just didn't have the funds. Now that we have the funds, look, we haven't built out the infrastructure to how to come up with projects, how to spend that money, how to streamline a process. We have a bunch of ideas, but how would we like to use it? I don't think that lodgers tax could be the complete portion of it.
Oh, no. No.
It needs to be aligned with the city. Look, dare I mention our universities as well. We're a university town that has not managed to take advantage of what we've had, not to its maximum potential. We do have money now, but just because we have it doesn't mean we figured out how to spend it correctly.
And that's why we wanted to meet, I would really like to see all that money spent.
Well, you should save a little just.
Well, yeah, prudent,
Don't zero it out.
but the majority of that money should be spent.
So,
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I'm curious how, I mean, what I hear is we have the ideas, we have the money. So what is the piece that we're missing? Is it the city now that, I love your idea about bringing busloads in, about having stadium events or tournaments, about a cooking, chili cook-off or something. But whose responsibility is that to help come up with that? Is the city, is it,
Well, there is an event planner position, and there's also, I think it's a good opportunity that we're meeting now, because when 7505 starts, that's gonna be a lot of what we're gonna talk about, a lot of these ideas. We just need the follow-through to pursue all the other funding. We had just put in for congressional funding, how many projects, Leo? 6 major projects, and they only asked us for 1 apiece. We gave each of our delegation 3, which includes infrastructure, which includes Rodriguez Park, which includes all that stuff. but we do have that event planner position. I just think we need some leadership around what events that we want to focus on, and I think that's where 7505 can help, sort of prioritize a list of events that we want to have done. Does that sound?
Community Development Director.
Yeah.
Community Development
Community
Director.
Development Director, I'll say it a million times.
If you,
That's what's missing.
if you guys know of anybody, send them our way.
Cindy and I'll do it, we'll support her.
Come on.
But everywhere's aware of the problem. Everybody needs to be aware that that's a big problem. Of
It is a
why,
big
why
problem.
we're not able to spend the money, why we're not able to execute. It can't be just city manager juggling everything at the city. There's personnel we're missing at the city level that helps to execute, that coordinates with the volunteer groups, because we are all volunteering. For the Lodgers Tax Board, that execution needs to happen, but if the staff level, if it's not there, then that should be the priority, and we get some of those answers from there.
Well,
Those are the guys that coordinate with
let
the
me just
public.
correct you, that is a priority for us. Getting that position filled is
I'm
a
not-
priority. It absolutely is.
Yeah, I'm not saying, if people are aware, but it's an important cog. Sometimes you get buried into it and people have forgotten that we're understaffed at this level. Things aren't working normally because of this. We're not getting and I see the frustration with the entities and the public as well, because you don't have a continuous entity. When we did have Amy for that split second, my eyes lit up. I was like, okay, there's hope. We can have some continuous process. Somebody is following through continuously at the city level, and it's not fair for city manager to be struggling
We
with
realize
those.
that.
Yeah,
We realize that.
Don't look for perfection, Mr. Mayor.
No, we need somebody there.
Don't look for perfection, because nothing will happen.
Right.
You've got to be
But as far as Lodgers Tax goes, it's not just that community development director. There was officers underneath that community director that worked with Lodgers Tax all the time. And Lodgers Tax helped funded those, and those guys could have came from Highlands. They're graduate students, maybe they're coming from AmeriCorps. We were at
That's
some
one
point
of the
used to
ideas that we could jot down. Bring back the interns.
Bring
Well,
back
community
the,
development used to have at least 10 people in that office.
and some of the people that we got from within town, that did graduate, came through, they ended up being, directors within the city. And then unfortunately moving on to other cities to be development directors there. We can still do that, we can develop from inside.
That's a good idea. We could use some money to pay for that.
But Lodgers Tax did help with that, along with another grant, but we split that thing. But actually currently, I believe we're paying for one salary, already through Lodgers Tax currently, right? That's for a percentage for Chuck at the Visitors Center. So that's another idea I'd like to bring up. We need to get the Visitor Center more involved if we're talking about these things. They also count, they also have numbers of who calls in. How do we promote this Visitors Center for it if they do call? Maybe since we have that personnel, they can help with some of the tracking as well. But we need somebody to gather. It can't be events isolated from the rest of marketing. It has to be together.
Yeah.
Right? We need to be all in the same meeting and talking at the same time. We can't exclude event organizing from marketing. That's another idea that we need to bring back and put back together.
Well, that's why this marketing contract will pull all those ideas together. Which events do we want to promote? You know, what resources will we need for these events?
And we'll definitely need, I'm hoping, look, I don't want to repeat that, so hopefully we start building that, because you're going to need somebody to coordinate with this marketing company and make sure that the needs of the town are met. At this point, it's going to be Mr. Maestas. Mr. Maestas is going to report to you guys. You're going to be asking questions. But you need somebody at the execution level that's at the job every day, that's working with these companies. If it's not, there's only so much time that he's going to be talking to Sunny 45. I don't want to beat this as a thing, but we definitely need the personnel there on behalf of the city that's working for the groups. And it's not just one, it's the personnel underneath.
Thank you, Frank.
There's an awful awful lot of projection onto others to solve these problems, and I think to Nancy's point, there's a lot of us that you can just go out and do it, and we can figure out how, but this projection upon the other to solve the problem, you'll be wasting your time for the next 5 years. The nonprofits can do it. You can put together a community group of those of us that have a vested interest in making something happen. The experience and the knowledge is sitting here. Why don't we put the group that's been involved in this and those of us that have a self-interest, hell, we'd love to get involved.
Mm-hmm. That's a great idea.
Projecting on each other.
That's a good idea.
I'm concerned about the money because although, you know, if we approve everything else, all the percentages that Leo presented, we have a balance of $253,000. The last marketing company, when I was on the council before, gave us a dollar amount, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, well, we need $50,000 more for this, and we need $125,000 more for this. And before we knew it, we were like choking because we didn't have enough money. And I'm sorry, but, you know, $253,000 is a lot of money for me, but a marketing company can spend that in half an hour. And so I'm with Georgina. I think we really need to be careful. We need to keep some balance because we have a lot of nonprofits that come to us for money. We have bulletin boards that we pay for every year for the Independent Business Alliance. We have Main Street. We have, a lot of other entities, the Chamber of Commerce, that come to us for, and it's $50,000 here and $30,000 there. And so we need to make sure that we have money for them too, because they play a vital role in marketing for Las Vegas also. So we need to be careful about that.
And those monies are definitely there. We just needed to figure out the total budget. So we have $1 million, and then how much we'd spend on the thing. But we'd never want to encroach on, hey, the budget that we have for event funding and so on is there. But it can't be the totality of
Right.
it. There should be some campaign. For the campaign that you mentioned, year one, that was detailed deliverables. Year two, it went off the rails. Nobody asked for, and I hate keep referring to this time period, but it was disappointing to me. But year two, we've approved a contract without any deliverables. We just extended the contract. Well, guess what? They can ask for anything now. And at a city admin level, it's not the current thing, but we were paying said monies. So that's not something, that doesn't mean that we can't have a professional company do some of the things we can't do anymore. We just need to learn from our lessons,
Right.
and it's not anything new. Writing proper contracts, having deliverables, making sure that those are executed on, we can make sure that that it's spent correctly. We were in control. We
And
could decide how much.
that's all I'm saying, is
Yeah.
that we need to be very careful that that doesn't happen again.
It's not supposed to override, we have this good chunk of change. We're still gonna be taking requests for event funding. Before we get too far of it, the applications, and this is always a confusion, it's frustrating to me, for infrastructure has no caps. The only cap that, again, was even proposed, and it's not even a cap. If we ran into an event that we wanted to push more money to, we could make that recommendation. But it was not for infrastructure. Somehow, with confusion with the application, there was no reason for us to have a cap of it. We want more infrastructure projects.
Well, the application doesn't say that.
There are two applications. One says events and one says infrastructure, so it's pretty clear on the.
And somebody just.
But there's a $5,000 limit on the application.
On the event
Right.
application.
On the event. So at one point in time, that was some confusion. Hopefully that got clarified, but it's still going around for it. So if you want to apply for infrastructure, there's not those kind of caps. We're actually looking for those projects.
But if you're saying, if they're gonna do an event, and they're gonna be asking for more than $5,000, that's okay, then why isn't that stated on the application?
We can, I guess we can. Again,
Well,
the-
or
yeah.
even have that cap.
So there was no caps in between. We had them at a prior time, we put them back. All we were trying to do was have some accountability.
Or set
for
the
the
cap
money.
higher.
And so what was happening is, since there was no cap, you could say $50,000, $60,000. So how do we make a recommendation to lodgers tax on what we've awarded? What we did was just regulate the amounts given. It was either gonna be $2,500 or $5,000, and it was even across the board. If there was an outstanding event that we wanted to look at, then it was our obligation to do that. We're an advisory board. We're trying to help the council make the right decision. So how does the council make the right decision between one event or the other? Do we just give them the money because they requested it? Or do we have some type of metric to figure out how we're gonna?
And I think to clarify a little bit more, Mr. Mayor, is that it's very hard to spend $50,000 in marketing. You know what I mean? I mean, even for fiestas, I could guarantee you, maybe 10,000? And that's even more, for marketing itself. Most of it's overtime and those things. So these organizations actually come, they're not using our police. Maybe they are, but I know, those were issues that we had. If they do overtime and all that, well, that should come out of part of what they're requesting. So, I'm kind of, maybe you could clarify as to the request on why we would increase more for marketing these smaller events.
Or then if it's just for marketing,
So, and that's kind of why.
yeah.
Part of the confusion is that often lodgers tax was seen as seed money to get an event started. And it wasn't just advertising and marketing. And I think that's what needs to be clarified. And because if you're talking about seed money for an event, $5,000 is not going to go far. That's what it's going to cost you to advertise the event.
Yeah, certainly.
Right, so
And there's like event, like, so for the film museum, those are some of the things, or film events, those exactly were the things we're like, you know what, we should probably talk to so we, as far as I've been on there, we've been wanting to do the seed portion, but then after the seed, we wanna see if this was something that we could continue on.
Right, and
that wasn't the reason for the caps. The reason with the caps, and all you guys know it, for the same events, year after year, they tripled and doubled, and we didn't have any, that's exactly why they're there.
Right.
So it wasn't for any other reason, it was there because we were sensing abuse at some level.
Right, and I get that, because that's what happened when I sat there. The second part of that application, and it is there, if I remember, is asking people to come back and basically saying, if you don't come back and don't give us information, do not reapply. Krutik, one of the issues with the ad in the paper from Everything March 10th is it should have said for events through the end of the fiscal year. And then you'll have another meeting for the end of the year, because everybody thought that was it.
And if we can have that recorded, we have gone over it. I understand your guys' confusion. We have it, we just execute at the staff level, and we adjust our announcements that says this is the range. That's the fix.
That was my concern. When I heard of the deadline, I thought,
It's come over so many times during lodgers tax. We have addressed it. We've tried to say, hey, let's do that. So as long as we make that execution, we heard it here now, and we make that adjustment, that change is made clear.
Right. One thing that could be useful, because you do ask for contact information, is there's no reason why emails can't go out to every organization that has asked for money in the past saying, here are this year's deadlines. I mean, it's just like on the city business license. Nobody ever emails me from the city, but that's the easiest way to get in contact with people.
And I will agree with you.
And I know you don't have staff, I get that.
I agree with you, but it has brought up. So what I say during lodgers tax meeting is there any other avenue? Is this the most, so I rely on, I'll ask Cassandra, is having deadline emails and so on, is that a fair way to announce the announcement, or is it only newspaper and radio the way we're announcing it now? I believe it's just newspaper, right?
And we have a large email group, and so
Yeah, and as
does,
a merchant, I will tell you, the first thing people will tell you is I don't get the paper and I don't listen to the radio. I mean, for 28 years, this is what I hear.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
If we have other means to get the word out, my words were, we need to get it out to everyone.
Right.
To everyone, as many people as we can.
Put it in the church bulletins.
I don't want the feeling out there that they didn't know.
Right.
Put it
I don't know
in
if
the
there's
city's
a
bills.
minute, so.
Put it in the city's
Yeah,
bills,
it has
exactly.
it in the back of the page.
Yeah.
Again, put it in the church's bulletin.
Big-
But number one, we do not, the board, you know yourself, we don't do the contact.
I know,
It is the department
I know.
that the
Community
city
development
has.
is supposed to be
So
doing
that
it.
is the issue there, is that they don't have the staff to
Right.
do that job. So Mayor, who does that job then?
Well, it's already being advertised.
Right, but she's saying about the email, you know, the
Right.
contact.
Well, everybody
Who's doing a
knows that the
follow-up?
lodger's tax funding is available. It's there, it's been there for the last 20 years.
But
The
now you
cycle
have
is
a
the
She's saying
same.
it's not, she's saying it's
The
not.
cycle has been the
What's our
same
lot?
forever and ever.
No, it hasn't. It has not. I will tell you that. I sat on that board. It has not been like that forever.
you guys used to do it per, like,
Quarterly, we would do,
Right.
we would get the applications and people, based on when their event was going
Right.
to happen, is how it would happen. And we were the first people to put caps on it. When Karen Patine was the chair, Krutik's father was on it, I was on it, Leith Johnson was on it, that was fun. And, it was fun. And I forget who, I don't remember who else was on it.
Elmer
But-
was,
And really, frankly, I mean, I'll call a spade, and if you know me, you know I will. The last effective community development director we had was Elmer Martinez.
And
He
I
ran
didn't-
a tight ship. He informed his lodgers tax board about what they could and could not do. He let you know what kind of money you had to spend, and it worked. I'm sorry, but it
I
did.
could say the same, I mean, that's how far it's been, but some of the things, again, we're not reinventing the application deadlines, none of this is being reinvented. I butted heads with Elmer all the time, but I was a lot younger then, but I didn't understand. I butted heads with him on reserve, I was like, we don't have enough money, why can't we use more of this money? And he was like, no, we need to keep this much for reserve, right? We haven't talked about it, but we have a lot of money, but that
Always need a
reserve was.
slush fund, whether you're Nixon or not.
So the reserves were there for the rainy day, and look, the rainy day came the next year, they weren't good times. But he stood strong for those reasons, but really, he stood strong for structure, right? And we were lacking that for a lot of things, and lodgers tax has consumed themselves, whoever's on the board, in trying to reestablish that structure that fell apart, rules and procedures. And I'm not blaming anything to it, but once it goes away, it's hard to build back. Once
Yeah.
that experience leaves, it's hard to bring back. Again, I don't want to harp on the community development director. It's not just getting that community development director, it's developing that experience, right? Leo's a great city manager, all this experience is coming in now. Hopefully he doesn't leave in a short period of time, but Elmer had a tremendous amount of experience that went away, and it wasn't just Elmer, it was the plenty of city
Joanne,
personnel
it was
here underneath them with that experience. So when we're quick to eliminate it, it becomes tough because we see it in the cracks here of why
but
couldn't we
we'll make
execute?
sure you have the infrastructure from the city that you need. And as soon as we get somebody hired, we'll make it a priority
Yeah.
that they have, spend a lot of time with the lodgers tax.
If you build those, you would have less of an issue figuring out what to spend it on. They would be presented to you in council. If that was there, they're the ones that execute, communicate with the public and bringing it to you. They would work with lodgers tax to give you a recommendation.
Okay.
It's kind of upside
Thank you.
down.
Go ahead.
Just one last note from me. 2 years ago, when we came in, you revamped that application. And you came to us, and I think the limit was $2,500. And we asked that you change it for the smaller organizations, and you did. And you did put that cap. And I understood that that other cap was not there. And we've asked you for some more money than 5,000. And I thank you for everything that you guys have been doing. I've come to some of your meetings, and I appreciate the fact that your heart is really within the city and want to do the right things for the city. And lastly, Mr. Mayor, we have our finance director here, and I'd like to yield the floor, see if she has any issues, concerns, or she has any flags or any comments.
Just to add on the intern portion, I'd like to recognize Sequoia. He recommended the use of interns, use of interns for our IT department for digital marketing and to upkeep our website once we have everything in place. So that was one recommendation. I'm fairly new to lodger's tax and the uses, and I'm just trying to take note and then provide any information that would be required of me to this board and to everyone as a needed basis.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I didn't mean to spend a whole night here. This is I wanted to get this out. Wanted to make sure that it is an easy process. I want to make sure that the money is spent. And I know your reservation, you need to keep some in the bank. I understand that. But there's a lot of money that needs to be spent. And it needs to be spent. And so, thank you, everybody, for attending. I would like to meet with the community people privately at another point and talk about some of the ideas.
Mr. Mayor, and I'm gonna disagree. I think if you're gonna do that, you have to open it up to the whole community and not just, one section or one small group. I think you should publicly advertise that because, at the end of the day, this is for the city as a whole, and I know not to have any disagreements, or I hate to say this, but this is the reality. We need to, have events and a destination, and not, and unless I'm wrong, and maybe, I'm from here and everything, but I don't see us in the market to where, and maybe we haven't marketed enough to where we're a destination of shopping, but the way I see it is we have the events, we have the planning, and when they come to that, well, of course, then they're gonna come shopping. Maybe I'm wrong in that. But that's kind of, the idea that I think is the more events you have, the more everything you have, well, what are they gonna do while they're here at the events? If it's a 3-day event, a 4-day event, well, they're gonna go to the shops. And I think sometimes we get confused on that on the marketing of, Shop Las Vegas. I have we're part of a South Grand business area. I don't think we've ever sat down as a group and said, hey, well, let's, have shopping on South Grand. You know what I mean? It's something that we do within our own, and I hate to kind of be like the...
We're not asking for anything special, just to be heard, because we are out there.
And I think that's where the whole fight, that's what I'm saying, you know what I mean?
But that's for Sunny 505 to start.
Yes.
One of the first meetings I want to have is a meeting for general public and for all the merchants to show up and give their input on how Las Vegas should be marketed. That was my first thing I told Leo about Sunny 505. I don't want anything to be designed in a vacuum. I don't want somebody to sit in an office and not go out and reach out to people. I want input from everybody, all the business community.
And then I think the other aspect of that sometimes I feel that isn't done correctly is that we have local events that we put probably 75% of time and effort, which we should be doing more events that attract people here, if that makes sense. Am I correct?
That's true.
Yeah.
So-
And that has to come from the city.
And that's kind of
Because
what.
there's not an organization in town that can do the fiesta. The bike rally is something different. We need to, the places of the past, we need the PLAP tour back. And now that COVID is over, maybe that will happen. That brings a lot of people to town, and they stay here.
Yeah.
There's a couple from, where are they from? Begins with an Artesia. They come every year. They've been coming for like 25 years. They come from Artesia not just to do it, but to be docents for it.
They were my students in Roswell.
There you go.
So I think that's kind of where the discussion I thought maybe we would get into is be creative and come up with these events. And, there has been events in the past that have been, have generated a lot of people, and that's kind of some of the discussion that I think that needs to be made, and it doesn't have to be here tonight, but.
Trails and trails.
I mean, even in the discussion, and this is the part that I'm kind of upset at, is, I don't know, when Amy left, she had a list of tour buses and all that to make arrangements, to plan all this for the future, in this, developing, working at the.
It was a small moment of excitement I had for a little bit. I left the country. And then came back,
I took some screenshots of, some of this. But these are the kind of things that and this is where we need to partner with everybody, is let's get creative, let's get together, and let's put these, big events. One of the events, he's supposed to reach out to me, Manuel Crispin. I know he's involved with the Democratic Party, but he's very involved with the balloonists and all that. He's gonna help in doing a small balloon festival.
And you brought people from the Balloon Fiesta. If you really want to get people here, get the people from Santa Fe who want to get out of town during Hispanic market and Indian market. They want to get out of town. It's not, because when you think of Balloon Fiesta, it is a bucket list thing. It's people from all over the country. They don't know about Las Vegas. They don't care about Las Vegas. Their focus is to be in Albuquerque for the Balloon Fiesta.
But it's not. I would ask you to go to this meeting because
yes, there's always somebody who wants to get out of the fray. They were up at 5:30 in the morning, blah, blah, blah. But my point is there are people closer to home who will continue to come. A lot of the people who go to Balloon Fiesta, it's once in a lifetime thing for them.
But the interesting part that and maybe Leo could speak to this, and maybe Councilor Montoya that went there, is that you have a lot of individuals that come to this, and they don't just come for the one day, they plan a 2-week. They plan a 2-week, and within that, in discussion with some of those people, they were like, oh, well, we have a couple days and we're going up north. Well, maybe, you just hear them discussion and saying.
That's how I got to Las Vegas. I was tired of looking at Santa Fe.
Yeah.
Got out of Dodge for a day.
Mr. Mayor, I'll say that the Balloon Fiesta, you know what? I have cousins from Colorado that every year they bring somebody new. So it's not a one-time thing.
What? I'm not talking about Colorado.
Oh,
I'm talking about the people who come from Germany. I'm talking about the people who come from Australia. I mean, those people are focused on the Balloon Fiesta. You can get people from Colorado here every day of the week.
I thought you said people that visited the Balloon Fiesta only visited once.
I just wanted to comment on the Balloon Fiesta because my family has a hotel out in Albuquerque as well. And look, for Balloon Fiesta, it's our biggest event of the year, but it's a sellout situation for Albuquerque. It's very expensive rooms. So for families, even international coming, they have deeper pockets, but they're also seeing the bigger numbers. So it's not just that week. They're picking a weekend. Those weekends are just super heavy duty. You're paying an amazing amount. So they're trying to figure out what to do in between.
Well, we should take advantage of providing a more manageable room rate for people.
Down here and give them a reason to be down here. So they're not just staying, they're eating, they're participating in the event. And again, for it to be the biggest event of our state and not to participate, we're losing an opportunity. So I was surprised when Leo I was having the conversation is that even other towns hadn't thought of having a
counter program,
a booth there. So we're giving ideas to other towns.
Mr. Martinez?
Too much more competition.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I guess if we had a short list, I'd say get us a community development director, an event planner, ASAP. And then hopefully we have an opportunity in about 3 months, maybe we can meet again.
Okay.
See where we're at.
Thank you. I appreciate everybody being here. I appreciate the work that you do. If you know anybody that wants to sit on lodger's tax, let me know, and we'll get them appointed immediately.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, I'm sorry. I guess we need to have a motion to adjourn or whatever.
So moved.
There's a motion to adjourn by Ms. Casey, second. Second by Mr. Montoya. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Do you need a second one for them?
No. Joint.
You guys are in charge, we're just here to advise.